In this box is the sort of newly released Retevis NR30s handheld HT GMRS walkie-talkie radio. And yes, this is referred to by some people as a cheap Chinese radio or CCR radio, meaning that it is made in China and is not very expensive. But I feel that it is my duty as a YouTube superstar to point out that the term CCR is a highly racial slur that is offensive to many people. And no, I don't mean it's offensive to people in China or to our friends that were born in China and now live here in the once again greatest country on earth. No, they're not offended because they are too busy leading fruitful and productive lives. It's offensive to the losers on social media and the Karens at the grocery store that have no life and have no other way to show everyone what good and virtuous people they think they are. So remember, every time you use the term CCR, you are making those people very, very angry and sad. Anyway, the price for this kind of new on the market handheld HT GMRS walkie-talkie CCR is, as of the time that I am recording this, $55 of monies if you buy the 2-pack of the radios on Amazon. Affiliate link below. And yes, Retevis did send me this 2-pack of NR30s CCRs at no cost so that I could share them with you, my favorite viewer. So when you purchase the kind of newly released Retevis NR30s CCR in the box, you will receive a user manual, only 10 pages long, but because the print is so microscopically tiny, they've managed to squeeze in a veritable plethora of information. It's like trying to read a microfiche, but it does very clearly explain all the functions of the radio and how to use it, and it is written in surprisingly good English. You will receive a belt clip for affixing to the radio, thusly allowing you to affix the radio to your belt to really impress the chicks. A handsome wrist strap for those more formal occasions. A charging adapter. On one end, you'll find a USB-A's hole. On the other end, you will find these. You know where those go. As well as a USB-A's to C's charging cable. You will receive a charging cradle with a USB-C's hole for the previously mentioned cable and adapter. You will receive a programming cable for optionally connecting to your computer. I will discuss that more momentarily. You will receive a battery that comes with 2,800 milliamp hours pre-installed, which is bigger than many cheap Chinese radios, but it's not the biggest. The battery is USB-C's chargeable, and it has a charging status indicator, or it can be put into the previously mentioned charging cradle. You will receive an antenna tuned for the GMRS frequencies, and this antenna, unlike many cheap Chinese radios, is very stout, with a lot more girth than most CCR antennas. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that I can't handle it. It's just that it's big. Not very long, but big and wide and firm. And you will receive the Retevis NR30s handheld HT walkie-talkie CCR. On the front, you will find a speaker and a microphone, a screen, and a very simple selection of control buttons. And unlike most other CCR type radios, the up and down buttons only work with the menus. You cannot use them to change the channels. On the top, you'll find a hole for the antenna, a channel change knob, an on-off volume knob, a transmit and receive indicator light, and a very useless alarm button. On the side, you will find the push talk trigger, a monitor button, and a channel scan button. And on the other side, behind this waterproof door, you will find a waterproof connection for attaching the previously mentioned programming cable or accessories such as a hand microphone. And when you remove the waterproof door, the little thumb screw does not fall out and roll under the refrigerator to be lost forever. It stays put. just as Xenu intended. The knobs are fairly tight and clicky, which is a good thing as it helps prevent unintentional knob manipulation during vigorous adventuring activities, and you can also lock the buttons to further prevent any unplanned accidents. This is a very tight and rugged feeling radio, and it has an IP67 waterproof rating, meaning that you can play with it in the bathtub, so it is well suited for vigorous outdoor adventuring. As mentioned only a moment ago multiple times, this is a GMRS radio, and that means that it can transmit only on the GMRS channels, and no matter what you do and no matter how smart you think you are, this radio cannot be unlocked to transmit on any other frequencies. But as an added bonus, this radio can also receive the NOAA weather channels and NOAA weather alerts. And just like all GMRS radios, it comes with the 22 standard GMRS channels built in. No need for any programming. You can use this radio right out of the box. However, out of the box, this radio has tones enabled on every single channel, and I frickin' hate that. I hate when manufacturers do this because this means that although you can talk with any other GMRS radio, when people talk back to you from their GMRS radios, you will not hear them unless you either remove the tones from your radio or they program those same tones into their radio. And verily I say unto you, this can lead to a lot of confuckularity and even uncontrolled bouts of rage when you're trying to talk with strangers. However, in this case, with this radio, it makes sense. Kinda. And that is because Retevis sells these radios as work site or work group radios for people that only need to talk with other people in their group and do not want to be bothered by anyone else over the radio. This is why they come in sets of 2 or more. These radios are not made for or marketed to radio dorks for sitting on the couch and making contacts with anonymous men or trying to bounce the signal off the moon. The idea with these radios is that you get 2 or 4 or 10 of these radios, you pass them out to everyone in your group or on your work site, and you can all talk to each other without hearing a bunch of interference or people from outside your group that you don't want to hear. So when used in this way, the tones make a lot of sense. However, unlike any other radio that I have ever reviewed, and please bear in mind that because I am the queen of all that is GMRS, I have pretty much reviewed all of them. Unlike all those other CCR radios, you can turn all of those tones off very quickly and very easily so that you can talk with other people on regular GMRS radios or even find anonymous men to chat with if that is the lifestyle that you're into. Not that there's anything wrong with that. Now watch this. Stay with me. Do you see how there are tones on every single channel? To quickly and instantly eliminate all of those tones, all I have to do is turn the radio off, press and hold the useless alarm button, and turn the radio back on. Now you will see that all of those tones are gone.
13, 14, 16. Los hacen bien esos coleguitas, porque salen bien esos reyecillos.
I think he said he's voting for Trump in 2028. And now that those tones are gone, they will all stay gone unless and until I turn the radio back off, intentionally and purposefully press and hold the useless orange button again, and turn the radio back on. And now, just like magic, all of those tones have come back. And if you changed a tone or customized a tone or added tones for a repeater channel, and yes, this radio is repeater capable, all of the tones come right back the way that you had them. And I must say that I find the ability to do this very stimulating. And speaking of tones, if you decide to optionally add a CTCSS or DTS or DCS tone via the keypad, whether for a simplex channel or a repeater, you can only set one tone for both the transmit and the receive. As you see here, all the channels have the same transmit and receive tones. And once again, this means that this radio is not a radio dork radio because this will render many repeaters useless if you try to program it directly on the radio, unless you use the monitor button to disable the receive tone, and then you can hear everything, but that is a pain. However, you can add split tones, meaning a different send and receive tone, using the software and your computer. If you are not a radio dork or you don't understand what any of that means, it's okay because normal people won't care. I mentioned only a moment ago that this radio is repeater capable, but it has no custom memory slots. This means that you cannot have two repeaters on the same frequency with different tones. Again, this radio is not well suited for radio dorks. Normal people won't even know what any of that means either, and therefore will not be affected. And as you can see, the screen is... I almost forgot. I know this is the reason why most of you watch, so that you can see this part of the video. So watch. Watch as I very carefully and... Jesus fuck! As you can see, the screen is uncluttered and easy to read as long as you don't go outside, and that is because this screen has what us radio experts refer to as a vampire screen. This means that any time the sun is out, the screen runs and hides and you cannot see it. What I am saying to you right now is that this screen is absolutely unusable in bright, direct sunlight. Another thing that proves this radio is not made for radio dorks is that the radio has no VFO or direct frequency entry mode, so you cannot directly enter a frequency to listen to, and you cannot assign custom channel names. Again, these are all things that normal people will not ever need or care about, but for a radio dork, this is probably a deal breaker. The radio also has very simple and very easy to use menus that are designed to be used by normal people. And I should point out that to use the radio, you do not even need to go into the menus. You only need to do that if you want to change one of the few things in the menus, like how long the screen stays lit up, or to turn on the Roger beep. Yes, this radio does have a Roger beep. The radio also has a group calling feature, which I have never used in my entire life, but if that's something you need, it's there. Another very stimulating thing that this radio can do that even most radio dork radios cannot do is wirelessly transfer all of the programming from one radio to another. So for example, if you make a bunch of changes to one radio, you can send everything into another radio, thusly. First, turn off both radios, and on the radio that you want to receive all of the programming, press and hold the bottom button whilst you turn the radio on. Because you press the bottom button, and this is the radio that will be receiving the programming load, we refer to this radio as the bottom. Whilst holding that bottom button, turn the radio on. On the screen, you will see that it is now in bottom receiving mode. On the radio that you want to shoot the stuff from, press and hold the top button whilst you turn it on. And as you can see, it is now in the top or sending mode. And to shoot your data load into the bottom, simply press the trigger, thusly. You will see the lights indicating something exciting is happening. The bottom will automatically reset, and the top remains in the top mode, just in case you have another bottom nearby. To take it out of the top mode, just turn it off and back on. As I mentioned only moments ago, you can program the radio using your computer with the previously mentioned programming cable and the free software that you can download from the Retevis website. And there are two things that you can only do in the software and not do on the radio itself, and that is adjusting the internal microphone gain and adding a split tone on a channel. The software is very simple and very easy to use, and you know that famous old saying about using easy things, so keep that in mind. This radio has a noise reduction mode for use in loud environments. So I tested that in a very loud and noisy environment, and this is what it sounded like. And as you just heard with your very own noise holes, the noise reduction helps a little, but it is far from perfect. And for best results, the noise reduction has to be enabled on both radios. This radio has 3 power modes: low, medium, and, you guessed it, high. And according to my Farsometer 2000, the radio outputs about 1/4 of a watt. On medium, it outputs about 4.5 watts. And on high, it outputs a whopping 7.1 watts. And using this radio and this very antenna, I was able to talk with my friend Conrad, the chef, at his house on his base station radio 13 miles away, loud and clear. However, I should point out that my house sits atop a golden hillside in the clouds, blessing me with a very good line of sight to the slums below where Conrad the chef's house is. So what I am saying to you right now is your FARs will vary. So should you buy the kinda newly released Retevis NR30s CCR radio, my friend, as with many things in life, there is no simple answer other than to say, it depends. If you are a pure radio dork and you are looking for a radio dork radio to play with in your basement, then no. This radio is very much not for you. If you are someone that needs an adventure radio for hiking, off-roading, or other adventure activities, then maybe, yeah, this is not too bad. However, if you like to do occasional adventuring and maybe also have the radio dork gene festering inside you, and you don't want to spend a lot of monies, then the NR30s might just be the radio for you.